hold up, I am on my way. I'm in motion. Let's go to the ocean.
Hey guys, welcome back to my YouTube channel. For those of you who are new here, my name is Chido, and to all my returning subscribers, hi, how are you? I missed you. I know you missed me too. Let me actually pause this. Yes, so happy Vlogmas. So today's going to be a different video. It's not going to be a vlog. As you can see, I'm sitting down in the house. It's something that God has been tugging at my heart for a very long time, and I've been avoiding it like Jonah. Avoiding. If theoretically God could like have me be swallowed by a whale, he probably would, because I've been just avoiding it. It's like he says, Chido, do it, and Chido's like, I can't. And I think it's time to just like rip the band-aid off and just do it, because honestly, what do I have to lose anyway? So I am here to talk to you guys about my story, my testimony, my story. So when I was in uni, in between, I think 2017 and 2018. Yeah, no, 20, end of 2016, let's just say like September 2016 into 2018, I was in a relationship with this guy. Right. First of all, I should have known from day one that it was not a good idea, because I met that man in the club. I don't even know what I was thinking. Anyway, so I was in this relationship with this guy, and he wasn't a Christian. His parents were, and his family was, but he wasn't. As far as he was concerned, he was walking around talking about, I'm an atheist, I don't believe in God, blah, 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 blah. Right? And I don't even know why I stayed, to be very honest. I think I was coming from a place where, if I'm being completely honest, I had a lot of hurt. I had a lot of trauma from like school and all the things I was going through, whether it was like racism, it was just being so far from home and being overwhelmed with my degree and stuff like that. And I fell off spiritually. I hadn't been praying the whole of 2016, and I think that the devil kind of saw it as an opportunity and planted this person in my life, and I fell hook, line, and sinker for it. And the trajectory of my life was shifted for 2 years. Right. So in those 2 years, I wasn't really like praying as much. I would have like moments where I would like pray and like watch sermons and read the Bible here and there, but I never really did anything that stuck. And I remember there were even days where I could just hear the Holy Spirit telling me that this isn't where he wants me to be. I probably should walk away from this relationship. It's not benefiting me, this, that, and the third. And sometimes I try, but when I would like walk away, I would somehow find myself getting roped back in. You ever experience like something where you're in a relationship and then like you break up with the person and things start working out for you and then they come back? That's exactly what would happen to me. And I think it must have happened twice before I really then just cut the umbilical cord. In fact, I don't even think I cut it. I think that God did. Because I just remember in 2019, we broke up, and it was for good. And straight after that, I decided that I was not going to get into any relationship with anyone. I was not going to entertain any opposite gender people. I was just going to double down on focusing on my health, because at that time, that was when my endo was kind of now starting to like increase in like pain and stuff, and it was like really getting bad. And I started focusing more on God. So I had a routine. I would wake up every day. My dad would sometimes even wake me up, and he'd be like, "Should get dressed, let's go to the gym." And he would sometimes like work out with me outside, and then on most days he would take me to the gym. So I would wake up, make my dad breakfast, and he would eat, and then I would get dressed and he'd take me to the gym before he goes to work. And every single day I would go to the gym from like 8 in the morning, and I'd walk out of that gym at like 11 o'clock, maybe from like 8 to 11, sometimes even 12. I overdid it, which would explain why, if you look at my very first videos, I was very small in comparison to me right now. Like, I remember there were some people who saw me and they'd be like, Chido, what is going on? Like, are you sick? And I think it's not that I was sick. I was just addicted to the gym at that time. Anyway, so I would go to the gym, come home, have some lunch or whatever it was at the time. I think it was like lunch, yeah, because it would be in the afternoon. Because also I would do intermittent fasting. I'd come home and eat my lunch, and then I'd go to my room, lock myself up in my room with Blueberry, my best friend. He would be sitting on the floor, sleeping, keeping me company. And I would switch on my computer and I would watch a sermon, whether it was by Steve Furtick or it was Mike Todd or whomever at the time. I would watch a sermon or two sermons if I had the time, and then do some Bible reading, and then I'd take a nap. And I would then wake up and cook dinner and this, that, and the third. Because at that time I couldn't really work because like my endo was like acting up so bad. I had to get it under control. And one of the things that the doctors had said to me was I needed to lose weight. So I had just kind of decided, you know what, in this season, I'm just going to take time to recalibrate my senses, whether it was me just like deciding to like work out and get back to like better habits, I like eating habits. I was also just gonna like go back to the heart of worship, because remember I was coming out of a 2-year relationship that was nothing but toxicity. It was a complete waste of my time. If I could turn the hands of time, and I always say this, if I could turn the hands of time, I would have never entertained that man past 2 minutes. Okay, don't be like me. Don't be stuck in a season for years that was supposed to be somewhere you were passing through, or something you were never even supposed to experience to begin with, simply because you don't want to listen to the voice of God. Now, that's not the story of the day. That was just anyway. So fast forward, like I'm busy like praying, and I'm like closer to God. I'm getting closer to God. He's telling me that I need to like be more of a steward. I need to serve more. I need to be more content with my life and where it is. Because again, at that time, I was like 2019, however old I was. I was 26 years old at the time, and already a lot of my peers, they were working, some of them were getting married, and their lives were moving forward, but I felt like mine was moving backwards. And for the most part, it was something that I kind of credited and said, oh, well, it's my health. It's not like I can do anything about it. I can't change it. Hold on. Oh, yeah. So a lot of my peers, their lives were moving, and I felt like mine was going backwards. But I kept hearing God telling me that this was not the season for me to enter into things. This was like supposed to be a foundational season. So I tried my best to remain like content in what He was doing, and I kind of acknowledged the fact that, to be honest, I was where I was because of my own decisions, and I accepted it. Which brings me back to point number 2, guys. When things happen to you, like some certain things, I think it's high time, and I've noticed that this is something that a lot of us do. We lack accountability for our own actions. Like, you cannot, not everything you can pray it away and it'll be happy. Like, God is like a genie, okay? And I say this to say things like, you can't expect God to work with nothing. Like, if you have an exam and you don't study, and then it's the day of the exam, now you're praying and saying, God, please help me pass, but I'll not like, God can't help you with this, like, where you're not like working with Him. You know what I mean? You can't expect God. You can't be like, God, I want to lose weight, but you don't even eat right. You don't even go to the gym. You don't even make right decisions. You don't sleep enough, because it'll be like, okay, am I a genie to you? Like, that's not how God works, right? So I came to a place where I had to just sit with my mistakes and learn and go back to the art of worship and like be closer to God, so that I focus on hearing His voice a lot more instead of listening to any outside noise. I remember during that time, the most important thing to me was learning to hear the voice of God. So when all of these things were happening to me, I could have been complaining. I could have focused on complaining. I could have focused on the negatives and how like my life felt like it was going backwards when everybody else's life was going forward. How at that time my day consisted of just like literally 3 things, and I didn't really have much going on for me based on societal standards, but I just kind of like tried my best to keep my eyes focused on God. And I say all this to say, a lot of us these days, we struggle with seasons. I believe, and even like if I were to like bring Bible into it, there's a time and a place for everything. Like with every season, like you will get that time. Like it's almost like, even like I think about it, like when I think about children right now, a lot of young people are experiencing seasons so prematurely that even when they then grow and when it's time to experience other things, you have such fatigue and you've put yourself through so much that you weren't even supposed to be going through in the beginning because of the seasons and how you kind of like jump started your own season, you rushed into it, right? And all of it, this whole like culture of today, yekuda kumanyisa zvinhu, and trying to like speed your process and like trying to experience things because other people are experiencing them because they have money, so I need money, and I need to chase after money. I need to hustle and hustle and hustle until you hustle yourself to death. This thing of like overworking, working 2, 3, 4 jobs even though you don't need it, and this thing of constantly like just being sucked into the rat race. I feel like that's all things that the devil uses to take time from God that we were supposed to be having for us to then glorify and make idols of all these other things, right? And I feel like in that season for me, God was trying to tell me and get me back to a centered point where I always remember that like everything starts and ends with him, and everything starts and ends with being in service of others, because a lot of the time we tend to always want to do things for me. What will I benefit out of it? What does it mean for me? And we forget that in life we were not brought on this planet and on this earth for us to serve ourselves. So when you're chasing after all these things, sometimes you have to understand and get to a point where you have to ask yourself, what is the purpose behind it? What is the calling behind it? Am I doing this for selfish gain, or am I doing this for the glorification of the kingdom? And when I was going through that season of just having to be refined and having to go through unlearning and deliverance from all the things I had experienced when I was in that toxic relationship, and when I was also just in uni and I was going through a lot of racism and all these like other things, sometimes instead of getting sucked into it and like just kind of starting to like pick up control and take control over everything for yourself, you do need, like, God will pull you out of it and put you in a place where he has time for you alone. Somebody once said, and I don't remember who it was, but I just know it was a church service that I was in. They were like, God sometimes loves us so much, and he's also a selfish God, that if he sees that there's too many things taking away his attention, I mean your attention to him, he will take it all away. Like, that's just the way it is. And I feel like in that season, that was what I was going through. I had to go through it, and he had to put me back to a place where I had no other choice but to rely on him, but to rely on his goodness and his mercy. A lot of us right now, we are searching for love, we are searching for peace, we're searching for money, we're searching for happiness and all these things in the wrong place. Like, we have to go back to basics. And when I say go back to basics, I feel like everybody just needs to, I would encourage you all to just have a season where it's just you and God. I'm in no way saying quit your job and move back with your parents and live with them. No, that is not what I'm saying. I'm just saying that we all need to just have a moment and a season before we enter into the new year where you sit with God, have conversations with him, like look for his voice in your own life for you to be able to move forward. Because in the coming year, and I want this for myself, but for everybody else, I want us to all walk with purpose, walk in purpose, and to stop procrastinating. Because one thing about the devil is he is going to continuously take our time and our decision making and push us into procrastinating. He will cause you to procrastinate by focusing on all sorts of stupid things. You will sit and watch like Netflix for like 5 hours, but you will not pick up your Bible to read one chapter, or you won't even like listen to 2 worship songs, but you can be at a concert shucking and jiving. Like, we need to understand that right now we are genuinely battling more against like spiritual forces, and to start calling upon the name of Jesus a lot more. We need to start just going back home to his presence and pray without ceasing, because right now as it stands, our food and our nourishment is not coming from God. It's coming from social media. It's coming from the worldly things. It's coming from our own selfish desire. And even biblically, aunties, the spirit is willing, but the flesh is weak. And in order for us to be in a place where you can get your flesh to submit, your spirit, you have to feed it. You have to continue to feed your spirit all the right things. And it's not easy. It's very difficult. It's something that I personally struggle with myself. And I'm not coming here with like a high horse like energy where it's like I know exactly what I'm doing. I'm like 24/7 prayer warrior. I'm not. I'm just sharing this with you guys collectively together during this Vlogmas season. It's all fun and games, but at the end of the day, we need Jesus. That's it. And we need to want him. We need to spend time in his presence. We need to like just be near him, because it is in the stillness of all things, it is near him that we will find all the answers to our life. I don't believe that life was supposed to be this hard. I don't think that we were supposed to hustle so hard. We were supposed to work so hard for everything. I don't think we're meant to like fight and fight and fight. And a lot of us are tired. Like, we're so sick and tired. You're tired of living paycheck to paycheck. You're tired of constantly having to pay bills. You're tired of today you finish paying off your tire that like yakaponja. Tomorrow you need to fix your lights, you need to fix your computer, you need to fix your phone. Like, it's problem after problem. And I don't think that that's the way God intended us to be. I don't think that God sent Jesus to come on this earth and go through all of the things he did and to die for us on the cross only for us to have to experience problems. I just think that we experience problems because we've let our flesh dictate where we're going, and we've just become so complacent, and we've just accepted the way things are, and we've given up. Even as believers, like, a lot of us see the chaos in the world, and instead of like huddling together and like coming up with a plan and praying about it and getting into covenants and just like worshiping and like speaking life into situations, we just go, and those people Twitter say like what must happen. And it's like, okay, like, if you're not gonna be the ones to stand in the line for others and for yourselves and for the future generations to come, then who's gonna do it for us? And I say this because I'm always like, my biggest challenge with myself and my fellow generation mates, guys, I don't think we are being good adults. I don't. I think we're not being serious. I think we're not being genuine. I think that we're playing around. We cannot be in our 30s and in your late 20s and in our 40s and dololo, we're still doing mabawa. We're still like, you won't let go of the alcohol. We won't like pick up good habits. We won't go to the gym. We won't like go to church all the time. We won't pray. We won't mature in our spirituality. And a lot of us forget that, like, for us to be even where we are, it's the prayers of our mothers, our aunts, our grandmothers, are like the people who came before us. Like, we need to remember that we are no longer children. We need to graduate from childish thoughts and behaviors and mentalities. Henceforth, why Paul was like, when I was a child, I thought like a child, but now I am a man. We need to man up. We need to grow up, because now a lot of us are having children. A lot of us are starting our families. And the truth is, we cannot keep relying on the prayers of Anna Gogo and Anna Mama. Like, we have to start doing it for ourselves, because who's gonna be standing in the line of fire for your own kids? These days we have so much access to so much knowledge. You've got ex-witches, ex-warlocks, and all these like Vanhu va Satan coming out and saying, you guys, some of us are the teachers to your children. We are the ones that are standing there, and in the spiritual realm, we are busy throwing daggers at your kids, your 5-year-old kids, your 4-year-old kids. And you don't even, there's no spiritual veil over them, because nobody's praying for their lives. Even just the fact that, like, in this world, everybody's been so open with immorality, whether it's like sexual immorality, all of these, like my tarot cards, my crystals, my tombo, whatever it is, like all these things. And we're not like putting on our armor and getting ready to fight as Christians. I feel like we need to wake up, like we are like consciously being spiritually asleep, and it's getting us nowhere. And as the older people and the adults now, because the truth, I'm 30 years old. Like, my mom was like my age when she had me. Imagine if I have a kid right now, who's gonna pray for my child? Like, and it's things like that where it's like we cannot live a lukewarm life. I don't remember which verse it is. Give me the 1 Corinthians 10 verse 21 says, you cannot drink the cup of the Lord and the cup of demons too. You cannot sit at the table of the Lord and the demons table at the same time. I remember the other day, Fungai was writing, he had something to do at work or whatever, and he was a bit scared. And I remember saying to him, faith and fear, they cannot coexist. That's like trying to have water and oil conjoined together in the same cup, and it's the same as living a double life, a lukewarm life. When we were young, it was okay, we all did it. I did it, you did it. Let me tell you, I used to be a Power Ranger. When I tell you I was a Power Ranger, me and the club, we were besties like this, like always there every 2 minutes. I don't even know how my parents didn't even know that, like when I would be like to them, oh, so and so's birthday, that's where I'm going. Like, come on, friend, how many friends did you think I have? Like, be so for real. And I used to do all sorts of things. I never used to drink as much though, but I did dabble a little bit in alcohol, a little bit in like, you know, puff, puff, pass and stuff like that. But then at some point you have to grow up from it. You've got to, even like when it comes to the food that we eat and feed our temples and stuff, we have to grow up from it, because you can't keep doing the same things that you did 10 years ago. We're not maturing. We need to mature together, collectively. And again, I will reiterate, I'm not speaking from a place of like holier than thou, better than you. I still have my flaws. I still have a lot of things that are wrong with me. And I feel like it's because of that like I haven't said anything, because I was scared, because I would be like, no, but God, how can I be coming to tell people all of these things, even though in Nini Chai, I don't even have all of my own senses together. But it's like, that's not the point. Forget about the vessel. Don't focus on the vessel. Listen to the message, okay? I'm just saying that we need to be more cognizant of what feeds us, cognizant of what we are taking into our spirits and into our souls, and where we are in our lives right now spiritually, because the spirit realm is real. It all exists. Don't take my word for it. I can leave links to 6 different ex-witches and warlock stories that they will tell you themselves their stories. I couldn't sleep this one time I watched this guy's video. I did not sleep. I slept at 6 a.m. the next morning. Fungai was like, what do you mean you didn't sleep? Like, because I was that like frightened. It scared the life out of me. But we cannot let fear stop us from gaining more knowledge, because this thing of like ignorance is bliss, or like I won't be able to sleep or whatever. That is how the devil continues to get a grip on us, because he uses our fear to withhold knowledge and the discernment that God intends on giving us for us to actually be better. Like fear is not supposed to be something that like we put above all else, because also at the end of the day, like I said, how does fear and faith coexist? If you say you have faith in God and you believe he's the Alpha and the Omega and he's gonna take care of you, then why are we afraid? It's things that we have to logically, like at this point, shake it off. Like just stop. Like we have to stop. There's no other nicer way of saying this. Like we have to just grow up. Like I don't know how else to tell you. We have to grow up, especially if your husbands and your wives and your mothers and fathers, you have to grow up, because there are generations that are probably, or other people that are depending on you to be the one to set the record straight for them who are coming out. There are other people's destinies that are tied to you fulfilling your purpose on this earth, who will not be able to start or kickstart their destinies if you don't get it together. Do you understand what I'm saying? Like this stuff, it's serious. And I feel like social media has put us in a place where we just have this mentality of like just we take in things that are unnecessary. We focus on things that are stupid and petty, when at the end of the day, eternal life with God is the one thing that's important. Living out our purpose on this earth is what's important. I see so often, so many times, people say things like, oh, the graveyard is the one place that is so full of potential because all these people died and they didn't fulfill their potential. Okay, and you? And me, like we're also gonna die one day, and if we don't fulfill our potential, hello friend, you've just become another statistic. You know what I mean? Like, and I don't know about you, but I want to like make an impact on this planet, on this earth, and even in the kingdom. And I don't remember who it was, which sermon I was listening to, where he was like, for every single problem on this earth, there is a solution embedded in one of us. So each of us have a solution and a problem we're supposed to fix by our God, from our God-given purpose and our spiritual gift. But my problems are because we have not activated any of our gifts and we have not stepped into our purpose, whether it's from fear of being seen, fear of embarrassment. Take it from me, I am scared all the time. Even as I say this, I have like fear that, oh my God, what if my mother sees this? What if my sekuru sees this? What if my auntie sees this? And they're like, what on earth is she talking about? But I have to get to a point where I don't care. I don't care anymore, because you can't let the fear of other people's opinions stop you from living out your God-given purpose. Because when it's now you and God side by side, you think he's gonna hear, oh yeah, what like what do you even mean? And I promise you, another thing that I have to keep reminding myself, that I need you to remind yourself, nobody cares about you that much. I promise you, nobody's watching. We all have our own problems. We all have our own issues. Nobody is paying attention to you that much. Like nobody, I promise you. And if they are, let them. If they don't like it, it's fine. You will never be able to please everybody. Like that's life. Like you can never make anybody happy. Damned if you do, damned if you don't. So you might as well do. Okay? So anyway, I say all this to say, I told you guys that story of my 2019 to say that sometimes God will take you to a place of isolation and just close you, block you in, so that you and him, you can have conversations and you can get closer to him. And it's funny because it's at the closer to the end of that year, that was when I heard the Holy Spirit. Remember I said to you, and if you've watched or get to know me, you'll know that Fungai was in my DMs for almost 6 months talking to himself there. That entire year of 2019, when I was coming closer to the Lord. And I think it was like closer to the end of the year, like in October, November, that's when the Holy Spirit said to me, Chido, reply, he might just be your husband. And fast forward 4 years later, we are married. And I thought about this because it was actually the anniversary of the first time we met on Saturday. And I didn't realize it until like yesterday. And I was like, oh my goodness, wow, we've known each other for like 4 years. Look at how far we've come. And I could not be happier in my marriage and in this relationship, the way my life is. And I always view Funga as my biggest blessing, because like he just is, and I wouldn't have him if in that year and in that moment I did not throw all my eggs and all my trust in God. That's it. Because I see a lot of young people saying things like love doesn't exist, you won't find a good person. Some people have even been in my DMs asking me, Chido, how do you know he's the one, this, that, and the third? And like sometimes I don't even know what to say to you guys, because it will almost sound very cliche, like, but sick, I'm not even joking. Don't focus on a man, don't focus on a woman, don't focus on a job, don't focus on money or anything. Focus on God, okay? Because he's the author and the perfecter of everything. Without God, we don't have nothing. Like, if you're not like, if you really desperately want certain things and good things to happen in your life and good people to come into your life, the only person who can give it to us, or the only being who can give it to us, is God. And the only way to be able to hear what he's saying to you is if you're close to him, because the closer you are to God, the less you hear other outside voices, whether it be in the form of the devil or the other people that the devil uses. And the devil can use anyone. That's why I think we need to encourage each other to find God for ourselves, to speak to Jesus. I mean, to be in a place where God can speak to you for yourself, not for you to be turning to Anapapa or all these other people, because you don't know where their power comes from at the end of the day. So the only thing I can ever say to anybody is, when it comes to relationships and finding love, is go talk to God about it. And when I say talk to God about it, I mean really talk and be willing to listen. Because it's one thing to be like, oh God, please, can I find the love of my life, or my husband or my wife, or this job? But you're not willing to listen to what he has to say. Because sometimes what God has to say to us isn't what we want to hear. And we have to just be willing to accept it. And because God loves us so much, he's not always going to give us what we want. And we have to just be okay with it. In that year, I didn't want to be at home. I didn't want to be sick. I didn't want to have nothing else to do with my time other than going to the gym and coming home and doing daily devotion and fellowshipping. But that's what I had, because that's what God knew in that moment I needed. And for you, it might look a little bit different, but you need to just come to a place where you are content and you accept that this is the path that God has for me right now in this season, regardless of where everybody else is going. Because tikaramba tichingotarisa kuri kuenda vamwe vanhu ka, we're not even in the same lane, we're not even in the same car, let alone like the same race. So you cannot gauge your progress with somebody else's. The one pastor I watched the sermon, he was like, the problem with comparison is you don't know the purpose that God has for this person. You don't know the amount of time he has in this life. I could be someone who had the strength of my career when I was like 17, but you don't know that God intends to bring me back home when I'm 30. Yet your life could be starting to kick off when you're in your 30s, when you're 35, and you're gonna live to 100. But if you start comparing with me while I was busy jollering and having the time of my life and living my purpose at 17, and you're 30 thinking God has abandoned you, God doesn't love you, whole time, by the time I'm your age, I'm gonna be dead. Like, you never know. That's why comparison is not a good thing, because we're not all walking the same path. And we need to like remember that always. One thing I'm just going to leave you guys with here is, I pray that we all pray for a spirit of remembrance, because one of the things that will help us in this journey with God is remembering. Because a lot of the time we don't have gratitude because we've forgotten God's faithfulness for us throughout our entire lives. I only say this because me remembering about all of this and what happened with me in 2019 is because after I lost my dad, I fell off. I didn't want to talk to God. I didn't want to like have conversations with him. I didn't even want to go to church. I remember the first time I went to church, I cried, like, and it was this year. I stood in there for a good 30 minutes for that whole praise and worship session. I cried, kutochema tears, because I had just been so mad at God that whole time. And something dawned on me that sometimes it's very difficult for us to remember God's faithfulness and to see that he's going to make a way and to have faith in him. And in the process that he's putting us in, and in the season that we're in, because we've forgotten about all the things that he's done for us. And Funga used to be like to me when I first got here, she don't know cheapy sajin. Like, I would see, like when I first came to New York City, I saw the buildings, I was like, oh, okay, that's it. Those are the buildings. Like, okay, they just like plain and boring. And he looked at me and he said, "Chidono zotono chipisa zwin." And I want to say to the rest of us, Musa chipisa zwin, okay? Like, don't have God give you, bless you with all these things and unozi chipisa just because it doesn't look how you want it to look, it doesn't feel how you want it to feel, and it doesn't look like how the next person's looks. All of us have been blessed with so many things in this life that if we started counting bar for bar, we'd probably be able to all write a book. But the problem is we've forgotten. And I don't know if it's a symptom of instant gratification or if it's a symptom of just wanting to always have things be different or have your way. But we need to start to remember God's promises and the promises that he kept for us. Like I ended up getting out of that rut because I remembered in that year of isolation and in that year of loneliness, God was faithful to me. He rewarded me and he was faithful to me and he blessed me and he kept me safe. Even after that, he healed me from endometriosis. You know, some days when I go out walking, for me, for other people, it's like, oh, why is she so excited about walking? But I remember back when I couldn't even like get up to walk 20 steps to go to the bathroom because I was in so much pain. I remember when I couldn't even walk 5 steps without being in pain. I remember when I couldn't even go anywhere without having taken 10 pain opioids at that to stop the pain so I could just live a basic life. It's things like that that put us in a place of complete and utter gratitude. And I truly believe a grateful heart is a magnet for miracles. So you need to get to a place where even if it means you have to write affirmations or write all the things that God has done for you, put them in a jar or put them on a piece of paper that you stick on your wall to remember every single day. But gratitude is the beginning of a long-lasting happy life, and I truly believe that we all need it. But for now, please guys, go back to God. That's all I have to say. Thank you for watching. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. And love you like a love song. Bye.